Grapes with CEOs. I'm your host, Patrick Wood, and joining me today, I have the pleasure of introducing Ryan Hamlin, CEO of POSaBIT Inc. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks. Glad to be here in Toronto.
Excellent, yes. You're from Seattle, that's where you guys are based.
Yeah.
So I know it wasn't easy for you to make your way to Toronto, being middle of February in Canada and in Seattle this year as well.
Yeah, not my favorite month to travel, but I think this one took it. I think I've traveled a lot in my years at Microsoft, but yeah, I left my house, as I told you, Monday at about 3 o'clock, drove down to the airport because I had my early morning flight to Toronto. Big snowstorm hit Seattle, record snow. I've lived there my whole life. 2 feet of snow, shuts everything down, flights canceled, so I spend the night at the airport, grab a flight on Tuesday, that flight gets delayed, finally get to Denver en route to here, and then of course Toronto has a snowstorm, so then all the flights from Denver to Toronto are canceled, so I spent my second night at an airport, this time in Denver, and thankfully made it here yesterday late afternoon, so not bad. Left my house Monday at 3 and got to Toronto Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Okay, I travel a lot across North America. That's probably one of the worst I've encountered. Well, you know what? Thanks for making it here. You made it here, and we'll talk about why you're here in a little bit. But being from the Washington State area, you brought with you today a Columbian Valley beautiful cab. Tell us a little bit about this. What does this wine mean to you?
I will, absolutely. This is one of the few wines you can get here, as you know, given those travel experiences. I couldn't necessarily bring my favorite, but I did find this Saint Michel here in Toronto, which is great. So,
so you bought this locally in Toronto at our LCBO.
And you can get it here. Yep,
That's
which is great. I mean, there's not a ton of Washington wines represented here in Toronto, but there is a handful. But Chateau Saint Michel is the largest wine producer in the state. And I don't know if you know that or not, but
I do not know.
So Washington, here's a question for you. So of all the states, where's Washington as far as production, wine production, do you think? Obviously California.
Well, I was going to say California would probably have dibs. Washington State would probably be second, I would think.
Number 2, that's right. So Washington State, I mean, it's not many people know that, but you know, as far as the U.S. goes, second largest producer of wine. Great wines, especially on the eastern side of the mountains, in the Columbia Valley. So Chateau Saint Michel has been around a long time. And the reason I bought this one is because, yes, it's a good everyday drinking wine, and this is a wine that I would have with pizza or, you know, just kind of your everyday papa. It's probably, I would say, $17 US.
Okay.
So it's a reasonably priced wine.
$50 Canadian.
Exactly. So buy it down there. No, but my favorite part of Chateau Saint Michel is that they have summer concerts. They have this massive summer concert series.
Oh wow!
So for many years, my wife
in the vineyard.
And they have a big amphitheater.
Amazing.
And so for many years, my wife and I always go to a couple concerts a year. You know, we've seen John Legend there, of course, Steve Miller Band, ZZ Top. I mean,
wow!
A lot of fun,
what a treat.
Like classic bands come. And you buy a bottle of wine, and it's picnic style. They allow you to bring in your own food, and you might have a bottle, maybe 2, of Saint Michel, and sit back and listen to great music. And so it's fantastic. It's kind of the fun party wine, I would say, of the state of Washington. The other reason I like it is they were acquired by Altria. And so obviously one of the largest tobacco producers, manufacturers, and ironically, those guys also just put a $2 billion investment in Kronos, which is on the cannabis side. So what you're seeing, and one of the reasons I like it, is you're seeing big alcohol, big tobacco, big cannabis really starting to come
real
together.
tie-in in the beverage space with the tobacco and now the new cannabis space. Fantastic.
But yeah, so this is a nice cab. I love the cab. I mean, I would say Washington is known for its cabs. It's reds.
Which is phenomenal, by the way, because Washington State, I mean, as a person based in Toronto, you would think of Washington as mountains, snow, and ocean.
And
Seattle.
It's like 2 different states, right? You go over the mountains and get on the eastern side of the mountains, and it becomes dry and flat, and actually a great climate for growing grapes.
Fantastic.
So,
well, let's give this a little try. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it.
Cheers.
I'm going to give it a shot, and then let's.
Yeah, then we'll chat about other things.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's not a bad little wine. So with all the Washington wines, you're going to have a lot more tannins. Right, it's going to be, Eastern Washington really has, it's going to stick with you a little bit, right? But awesome flavor, right? I mean, that's why I just love the.
That is robust.
I love the cab.
That is very robust.
Yep.
Fantastic.
It could be a big.
This is. I mean, this is a go-to with a a really high-end gourmet pizza.
Yep.
Or
you could do a steak with it.
You could do a steak would be good too.
To maybe a different Washington wine.
Yeah.
There's plenty to choose from, but this is a good one
for a go-to. That you can have a glass and listen to John Legend in a vineyard setting, and or Steve Miller Band. I mean, gosh.
Yeah. Boston came, all kinds of good.
Oh my gosh! Tunes. Wow, that's really, really cool. I love it.
Great.
And what do you taste in this wine that you like?
I think again, I mentioned the tannin piece of it. I think it's a big, bold. It's almost super Tuscanish. Where I feel like it's got that big gnarly flavor to it.
It does. It is.
I'm not going to try to guess what fruity flavors you taste.
All right.
There's a lot in there. Right?
I couldn't tell you either, but I will tell you this: it's fantastic. That is really, really great. Wow. That is an all. Like a go around, you can have this with anything.
Yeah, and the nice thing is this was
even a robust fish, like a like a nice mahi, you could have it.
Yep.
I mean, fantastic.
Yep, yeah.
That is great.
You could do pork with it, pork chop or whatever. But
perfect.
This was in the vintage section in Canada.
In Canada, yeah.
So there was one other Washington wine in the non-vintage, but this was considered the vintage section. So
very good. Okay,
we got it in the vintage section in Canada.
Excellent. Well, I think that's a check in the right box for you guys. So, so POSaBIT. Company that is incredibly close to my heart. Yeah. I've been working with you for some time now. We're working to take you public and list you on the Toronto, in the Canadian Securities Exchange, which is the public securities exchange in Canada. Yeah. And I think why don't we kind of start through kind of where you came from, where POSaBIT is today, and we can share with our viewers just a little bit about how this going public IPO process in Canada works, and we could talk certainly about some of the pitfalls, and there are a few. Yeah. But when we're about to taste the actual listing in the next couple of weeks or so, it'll be interesting to come back to this and view what we thought about it at this stage compared to being a listed company. But let's start with your background.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
And then kick into POSaBIT a bit.
Okay. I mentioned, my Microsoft travels. So obviously, I was at Microsoft, started my career, and was there for 17 years as an executive. Yeah. So kind of grew up when Microsoft grew up, right? As a smaller company. I think it was the 8,000th employee or something at the time. So still pretty small company. Mm-hmm. Microsoft was, pretty startup-ish at that time. A lot of individual companies within the bigger company, and I got to run some of the early internet properties. So MSN came online, everything was online. CarPoint was a car review site where you could actually submit referrals to car dealerships for test drives. Kind of the first referral business, a lot like AutoBytel and Cars.com now.
Yeah.
Home Advisor was another property I ran for home. You could go and view information about homes, and if you wanted to set up to meet with an agent to view a home. So kind of really early days if you think about how that whole space, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Another site that was worked with me was a site called Expedia, small little site.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because all of us, the head of Expedia and myself, we all were managed by the same vice president. I think he did better though when he spun Expedia
going to say,
Microsoft spun Expedia out, and obviously it's become what it is now. We were going to do the same thing with CarPoint and Home Advisor, but then the internet, for those of us that lived through that, the crash happened, and we decided it was better to be at Microsoft than spin it out.
Of course.
But then I ran a bunch of security proproperties for the company, a lot of enterprise software.
Yeah, and you managed a huge team at Microsoft too. 1,500 people, I think, at one point.
My last team there, 1,500 engineers and product marketing folks, and I think that business line that I ran, Forefront, was about $500 million worth of revenue for the company.
Wow.
So cut my teeth in small and large. And then that's really, I think after kind of going through that whole spectrum and being at Microsoft that long, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it on my own without a Microsoft logo on my business card.
Yeah, you had the entrepreneurial,
like all entrepreneurs,
kind of heart in you.
Yep.
Okay, yes.
So had the idea of Placeful, my first company, and I had pretty active kids, and I was frustrated that you couldn't book things online. I was seeing a lot more and more. You could book your travel and your hotel and all that stuff, but you couldn't book events. So if I wanted to take my kid bowling or I wanted to go into a batting cage, I would have to call. So there was the entrepreneurial need. Went out, built a business up, raised $4+ million of private money, got the company profitable, and then in 2015 stepped down as the CEO. I'm still the major shareholder and chairman, but like all things, when you do it once, you learn a lot, and you want to apply that to your next, right? So I think some of the most successful entrepreneurial stories are, the ones that happen after the first one, right? Because you get to apply all that. And that's really when the idea of POSaBIT came, because it's 2015. Cannabis had been legal in Washington State for a couple years, and already you were seeing billions of dollars pour into the industry. And so here I am as a software entrepreneur looking at this new industry coming out of prohibition, and I always joke with people and say, imagine when alcohol came out of prohibition and this guy named, Anheuser-Busch is sitting around the table and goes, hey, I got this idea to make some beer.
Sure.
Do you want to invest in that?
Right. Yeah.
Right? So here we are sitting around the table now, and that's what's happened. I mean, cannabis is projected to be bigger than the wine industry. Here we are talking about wine in the next 10 years. So you're going to have an industry bigger than the wine industry in 10 years from now. Wouldn't you want to be part of that? And that's what the exciting part about POSaBIT is we're taking a software approach to this business, right? So instead of building out another grow, or
instead of being a farmer,
be a farmer, or even a retailer selling it, use what the experience I'm good at, which is building innovative software and years of experience at Microsoft. Now apply that to a technology company in the cannabis space.
And so POSaBIT, let's talk about POSaBIT, the solution. I mean, I know it, but for our viewers, it would be...
really simply put, in the United States, cannabis is still a Schedule I drug. And as such, you can't use a debit or credit card because it violates the card brand policy. I was a crypto enthusiast, my co-founder a crypto enthusiast, and so we had the idea that said basically, what if we allowed a customer to purchase cryptocurrency, and that was the only transaction that would involve the card brands, and then let the customer decide, do they walk out with the crypto and just keep it, or do they decide to spend it on cannabis as a completely secondary transaction?
So credit, debit, you can use credit, debit to buy crypto.
Right.
Totally fine.
It's the other, you can't go direct for cannabis. So as long as we did it in two unique transactions that doesn't involve, the second transaction doesn't involve the banks or the credit card brands, then we had a workable solution. We vetted it for a year with our attorneys.
Of course.
Spent a lot of money, as you can imagine. And did all the right things from a KYC and anti-money laundering, registered at the federal level as a money services business, and then got our necessary money transmitter license in any of the states that we do business. So now, customer walks up, slides a credit card, debit card, buys crypto, either spends it for cannabis or decides to keep it and walk out of the store. And then that store is settled once a night on funds. And so to a store owner, I don't have to deal with all that cash. I just get an ACH directly into my account, creates a safer work environment, way better auditability from an electronic standpoint versus cash. And that was really V1 at POSaBIT. And now where we are, which is exciting, we rolled out a POS, so a full integrated point of sale. We bring loyalty to the market. We bring online ordering. So we're starting to take this cannabis industry that was very fragmented with different point solutions and bring it all together in one solution.
So and so that's interesting. So and we'll show a screenshot of the new demo, or the new unit now. It's not a demo unit any longer, but now you've integrated the payment functionality, which is an incredible workaround. It's probably the best use. I mean, it's the only real use case of crypto I've ever seen. You guys have done an amazing job with that. Now you've integrated that into a really full-scale point-of-sale system that's got rewards, everything built into it. I mean, it really is. I mean, that back end that you folks have created, I mean, only real seasoned, experienced Microsoft engineers could come up with something like that. And so I guess, from anybody's point of view today, they would say, well, okay, that's great, you've created that. What are you guys doing with it? I mean, is it actually, are you in stores now? I mean, are people really using this? Are they getting behind it? Is it something that the purchaser is looking at as a solution for them? I know all these answers, by the way, but for our viewers' sake, I have to ask.
It's a good question, Pat. And we spent a lot of 2017 proving it out in Washington State. Got our payments in about 23 stores, did about $750,000 in revenue, which was great for the first year.
Sure.
U.S. dollars. Sorry.
Yeah.
I keep saying that. And then 2018 was phenomenal. We grew the business over 100 stores, 120 stores. We're now in California, and Colorado, and Oklahoma, and Nevada.
Because as new states open up,
new recreational
you folks
states,
are going to be there
medical,
100%.
And grew business, to over 5 million U.S. run rate. So great growth, right? As we go into 2018, and now in 2019, we're excited because we not only have the payments business, but we have the POS business that I just talked about. So lots of growth opportunities for us.
And so one of the things that I find fascinating about a cash business is it works, but there's no data behind it. And not only that, people spend more when they can use plastic. And I think what's amazing about POSaBIT is, a few different things. One, you're increasing ticket size for the average consumer. So where they might on a normal day spend $25, now they can use debit or credit. They're going to spend $55. Which I think that's
or more,
which is what you guys are finding.
Exactly.
And so that allows the bud tender, so the person selling the cannabis and marketing it at the store level to kind of cross-channel this and bring it out and kind of say, look, hey, why don't you try this? And people they'll bolt it on as a purchase. And then I think it's more, the unquantifiable number that we have to think about with something in a cash business is, well, what is the data worth?
Right.
And there are a lot of companies out there in I would say in the cannabis space who are acquiring data. And whether it be in like the hardware space, vapes, bongs, crushers, and that kind of stuff, but nobody is gathering the kind of data that you folks are at the store level, and it's really granular data. And so I think if you could just touch about that a little bit, like those two things. Once again, the ticket size is going up, bud tenders love it. And it creates an amazing opportunity for that data.
We on that first note, tickets definitely go up and bud tenders make more. The natural human unfortunate behavior is people spend more when it's plastic, right? You're not limited by the cash you have in your wallet.
Sure.
So if I walk up and even if I'm buying a shirt or whatever at a store and I have $40 cash and that's all I can spend, well, that's my budget. But if I know I have plastic, I'm going to spend more. Maybe it's a special that week. Maybe it's a long weekend or whatever I need. So we naturally see that. And then bud tenders make more because it's an electronic transaction. They get tips, right? And so we offer 10, 15, 20% tips right there. And if you're putting
rather than a
buck
cash
in
tip jar,
I buy $100 worth of something. I don't think I'm cheap, but I might put a couple dollars in, right?
Sure.
I'm not going to drop a $10 bill or a $15, right? But when it's a digital transaction, we have no problem saying 15% or 18% when we tip, right? So bud tenders love us. They're making 5 times the amount of tips through our system. They become our best sales folks. As far as data goes, you hit on it because imagine in this industry that's cash only, you have no idea who's buying it, right? So if I'm producing something and all I know is, okay, this store wants me to ship my product, and then all I know is a month later they want more. I have no idea. Is it sitting on the shelves? Who's buying it? Am I targeting as a manufacturer females, males? What age limit?
Age group, everything.
So with our system, we're the first in the market because we actually, when we sell the cryptocurrency, we scan the driver's license. That's part of our compliance. And frankly, nobody has problems with that because they understand in this industry, giving up your ID is standard. You have to show your identification to buy anyways.
That 21 plus check,
So now we have all this great data that comes off of the government issued IDs, driver's license. And so I can go to a manufacturer and I can tell you exactly who's buying your chocolate edibles, right? I can tell you that males between 45 and 50 tend to buy yours the most. And I can tell you even trends. I can tell you on Thursdays and Fridays they buy way more than they do on Mondays or whatever. And I can say, so now I can also tell you where the zip code from their address, right? So now think how valuable that is to go to the owner of the store. I can say, hey, by the way, why is only 4% of your sales coming from this postal code? Maybe you should advertise more there. Okay, now I've just given great insight to the owner of the store to maybe drive in new customers. I can go to the manufacturer of that edible and I can say, look, it's males from 45 to whatever buying this. Maybe you should think about the packaging on that label. Different ways to upsell And then there's the advertising piece.
And you built all of that, by the way, into your point of sale system, which is fantastic. Because
so we're just now tapping that. I mean, I think
that's really neat.
Again, the data side of this business, big data is kind of the buzzword, but this truly is an industry that is deserving of big data, because so much of the money that's coming into it, so many growers are trying to understand what to produce. What do people like? You have an industry that people haven't participated in cannabis for a long time. And maybe last time was college or whatever, right? And so a lot of newbies are coming in and they don't know what they want.
And are you finding that? Are you finding that in your data? Are there a lot of people who have
like 60% of the people that are buying
touched cannabis for years and years since they were in their sophomore year, and now they're boom, they're 50 years old.
And the stigmas are going away. I mean, in states that are more established and mature, like Washington and Colorado, it's common. Like I would rather take a CBD product for a pain than opioids, right? I mean, we know
or than an Advil. Even.
With the academic, epidemics that are happening right now with a lot of the prescription drugs. I mean, it gives another alternative. So you're seeing a whole new base of customers coming in. People, elderly people coming in for the pain side of it. You're seeing, a younger generation, obviously, that has kind of grown up maybe a little bit more with it. But then there's the tweeners like us, right? That I think have kind of grown used to it. And now when I travel to states that it isn't legal, it's kind of baffling.
It's almost it's bewildering in a way.
It is, because it's like, wow, why would you not? And by the way, the taxation for the states, they love it, right? 37% tax rate in the Washington state. So the government obviously is taking their piece, and they love to have that income.
It's a massive amount of income. I mean, in 2017, I think in Washington state, it was $1.7 billion in revenue, but the government collected
over
tons
$500 million.
It was
over $500 million in tax revenue.
It was fantastic.
Which has actually been good, because a lot of that's gone to roads and education and other things.
Places where cities need it.
And so this is what's happening in this entire industry.
And to fight the opioid epidemic, essentially. Which is
so
great.
That's what's happening in this industry, right? More and more recreational states open. We'll be targeting those recreational states, those medical states, as they open up.
So POSaBIT, I mean, you folks are really, I mean, in this space, in the cannabis space, you really have a really operating business. You've been around for a while. Your growth is looking great. I mean, if you're an investor, even in an agnostic business that, let's say, it wasn't cannabis, you'd say, gosh, this is fantastic. And I think that's, from an investor standpoint, POSaBIT makes infinite sense. And people should be looking at this. And I think this is part of the evolution in what we're starting to see now in cannabis, away from the farmers into the companies that are actually, really doing a great job.
The picks and shovels, right? I mean,
that's right.
So look who makes the money.
That's right.
On these industries, right?
Well, you know what? I also think about it in the farming sense of things. It's not the person growing, it's not the farmer out in the field growing the corn. It's Kellogg's making cornflakes that are really kind of
that's what software. I think that's the whole. I think it's interesting because there's been a lag. The industry, as it's matured now over the last couple of years, you're finally seeing software come out, and I think that's what puts us in a very unique position, because
especially because you're huge revenue positive now, and
we're already there. Right?
You're already there.
We're
your
developing.
First player.
And that's what it's one of the reasons why we obviously wanted to go public. On the CSE, and you and I had this conversation a year ago.
We did. We touched base about it for a while ago.
And as we evaluated how we want to raise additional capital, and through a series of conversations with you and I mean, we decided, hey, this is the right thing to do.
So and so let's talk about just a little bit about that. Let's just nail down the pitfalls that we've had. We'll call it the struggles. And kind of where we are today, where we'll be in a couple weeks, and then after a couple weeks, what we're kind of thinking. Because I think we have enough visibility now. Certainly, we have enough visibility on what it takes to go through this process. Then it's a question of, okay, where are we today, and where will we be in a couple months' time?
I mean, I think my wife jokes and says you should have wrote all this stuff down, because you could publish a book at the end of this thing. I think it's been a great, for us, when all is said and done, and fast forward to where we're going to be in 2 weeks, I won't regret it. I'm looking back on it. It's going to be a great opportunity. I think we're hitting the timing of our IPO is perfect. The industry is ready for it. A very successful U.S. cannabis crypto and technology company coming into market. So those are obviously the reasons why, and we'll have good valuations. I think. I mean, our valuation.
Your valuation is really
from a
reasonable.
Software standpoint, it's below what a typical U.S. software for sure company would be.
Absolutely.
So great valuation. So we're excited about that. So pitfalls. I mean, I think, my advice, and I do talk to folks that are now looking at, hey, do we go to Canada as a U.S. company? I think your financials, have them in order, right? I mean, I think you and I both know the pains we went through.
So the audit process,
right?
I mean, that's just,
you got to be on top of it, right? You got to have great auditors. You got to make sure that even before you engage with the auditors, that your own house is in order. And I think, for us, we were a growing fast startup, and you don't realize the significant amount of work that is involved when you do a large financial audit to take a company public.
Sure.
So big lesson. Make sure your financials are solid.
Yeah.
I think set realistic expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, I think unknown. I didn't know really going into it, and I think when you start thinking about taking your company public and you get excited, it's a road, it's a journey, and I think so making sure you're communicating to your investors frequently, saying, hey, this is going to take a little while.
Sure. It's not a straight highway.
Yeah.
It's a windy road. It's a windy road. Yeah.
Good legal counsel, obviously. I think not to tout or plug you, but I would say having an advisor as a U.S. company coming to Canada it's a no-brainer. It's a must-have.
Yeah.
I can't imagine trying to navigate the waters without having somebody like you.
It's a tough thing. It must be a tough thing.
Yeah,
it's got to be a tough thing.
And again, I mean, you or others are out there that are helping U.S. companies. I think you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to do that. And then have a real good board. Have a strong board that understands the process, is going to back you, because it's expensive, right? I mean, we went into this, and we certainly under-budgeted.
I think the cost overrun has been 2-3x over where we anticipated, and that's all audit and legal. It can get there.
Yeah.
But let's talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. But we have a great IPO coming, right?
I think we have a great IPO, and I mean, you folks have certainly right now a ton of interest. The banking community, I think, is really excited about POSaBIT because I mean, everybody has the LPs in their portfolios. They've got everything else in their portfolios, the vape companies and all the rest of it. Nobody has what you have in your market space, which is the United States, which just, I mean, the state of California alone is the same size as our whole country.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's a very, very cool thing. So. So long term, what do you think is going to happen with POSaBIT? What's the strategy down the road? I mean, what are our if you have a dream at night that you think, gosh, what's this going to look like in a few years? What are your best guesses?
Well, I think we're going to be a large, successful company in like a Square. Like, I mean, I think if you look at what Square did in the United States, so they kind of disrupted the traditional processing model and really changed the game. And I think that's what we're doing. We're disrupting the cannabis software model and changing the game. We're taking a unique approach at it and saying you don't need to have a bunch of point solutions. You should have one great software provider that's developing innovative, cutting-edge technology with the latest and greatest, integration to the state systems for auditability, bringing payments, bringing loyalty, online ordering, all the key pieces that you need. So we're going to look back in a couple of years and go, hey, remember when?
Yeah,
and
of course.
We were this guy, and now we're this guy. And I truly believe we're at the beginning. This industry, it's the classic iceberg. We're very much at the beginning.
I think so. Because federally, it
10,
doesn't seem like it's going to come down anytime soon in the U.S.
It's just going to keep going, right?
Yeah,
and so you have 10 recreational states. You now have 29 medical.
Yeah.
But the recreational states are so much larger than when a state becomes recreational, everybody can do it.
Yeah.
And so you're just going to see, in 2019, we'll see another probably 3 to 4 states legalize. Yeah. Year after that, maybe another 5. I mean, people always ask, hey, what is the state of cannabis in the U.S.? And, I don't think we're not going to progress as fast as Canada did, where you guys just boom, and the whole nation went. Yeah. I think the U.S. and the current, there's administrative issues and everything else that has to come along, right?
Yeah, lots of moving parts.
So we're 3, I always tell people, we're 3+ years easily in the United States before legalization.
And with your payment, functionality, I mean, you're in an incredible position. Yeah. Essentially, POSaBIT will dominate the point of sale space in cannabis for sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Ryan, let's have a little bit more of this wine. And I want to thank you so much for joining us. We really look forward to and very, very anticipate you being public very, very soon. So,
cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, great having you here.
Cheers to a pre-IPO.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ryan.